So today we're going to be talking about Stasiland and Never Let Me Go. And I feel like I say this sometimes, but like I have strong biases when it comes to particular English books, and Never Let Me Go is definitely one of my top ones. So Stasiland, not so much, but you know, everyone has their own different opinions and that's totally fine. I just wanted to share that with you. I want to go through an essay prompt for you today. If you're here and you clicked on this video because of curiosity, despite not actually studying this book, then kudos to you, because I think that a lot of the things that we're talking about today can be relevant for a lot of other texts. This actual essay prompt has been taken from one of the Lisa's Study Guide's essay prompts that we curated for you guys. So I'll put that link to 20 different essay prompts down, I think it's 20, down in the description box below. So if you needed any extra practice, then you know where to find some. Let's get into it. To conform is to be safe and to survive. Compare how this idea is examined in both texts. Keywords. These are the words that I believe to be important and ones that I knew I had to address in my essay. Conform, meaning to comply with, obey, stick to. Safe, so there's a physical sense of being safe, but there's also the metaphorical, to be secure, protected, and sheltered. Survive, so to get through, to literally stay alive. And examined, so how the texts explore or scrutinize these ideas. I want to put out there that this prompt was actually really challenging for me to write on. There are so many levels for you to deal with. There's the physical part of safety, then there's the metaphorical part of safety, so how we feel secure and protected. On top of that, with survival, it can be interpreted in many ways. So there's the literally surviving so you don't get killed, and then surviving as a means of belonging to a group or belonging to society, and that kind of just goes on and on. So I think for me, the takeaway message is that you need to choose what you want to talk about. With some prompts, you're going to find that there's just so many different aspects that you could deal with, and that makes it more complicated the more you flesh it out. So my recommendation is that you choose 3 main ideas and really go into details. Don't go over the top by trying to cover absolutely everything, because that's only going to do it poorly and superficially. So once I came to that realization that I needed to condense my ideas and choose 3 strong ideas, it made it a lot easier. Contention. So for me, I wanted to agree to a certain extent. While conformity is a means to ensure safety and survival, some inherently refuse to share their identity and individuality. Argument 1. Conformity is a means to ensure safety and survival. In Never Let Me Go, there's an unspoken desire to survive by conforming. The clones are told and not told the truth about their existence. And this paradox emphasizes that while the clones have some sort of deep awareness about their predetermined fates, there's a blanket of repression, a quiet refusal to confront reality. This is possibly the case because on a societal level, the clones see no possibility of freedom, and thus they lack the drive to find an alternate way of life. With a life planned out to its end, from Helsham, the cottages, carer, donor, and finally completion, these clones accept their fates as their own way to be safe and survive because it's all they know. The situation in Stasiland is different in that the people oppressed by the Stasi are aware of the possibility of freedom, yet they conform as a means to literally survive under the brutal dictatorship. Otherwise, they risk torture, imprisonment, and potentially death. The cleaning woman Funda meets at the Stasi HQ matter-of-factly states how she conformed just like everybody else, revealing our human nature to protect ourselves to ensure our safety, even at the cost of our morals. Argument 2. I wanted to dig deeper into this idea of conformity, so I decided to discuss the other option. What if people refuse to conform? What would that mean for them? So my argument 2 is, refusal to conform means to risk one's safety and survival under dystopian ruling. In Never Let Me Go, ominous stories of the outside world play on the clones' imaginations after dark as they were trying to fall asleep. These stories of morbid escapes, the first about a boy whose body had been found 2 days later, up in those woods, tied to a tree with the hands and feet chopped off, and another, a Howsham student who'd climbed over the fence just to see what it was like outside and eventually died, warns the clones of the dangers that await them should they forego safety and try to escape Howsham. In Stasiland, Charlie was an enemy of the state because of his rebellious movements against the Stasi, leading to his imprisonment and death. Miriam also risked her life trying to get into West Berlin. Unlike the clones in Never Let Me Go, these risks are worth it for Miriam and Charlie because we just thought it was wrong. One tip for you guys here is notice how I've talked about conformity as a means to survive and to be safe, but also what happens when you don't conform and how that risks safety and survival. I feel like a lot of students will usually do the first one where they kind of agree with the prompt and say conform is to be safe and to survive. And sometimes students kind of think it's obvious that the other option to not conform is to be at risk and to risk a survival. I feel like a lot of students kind of forget about this one and just go, well, I don't really need to talk about that because I'm kind of talking about, like, I'm validating it in my first argument anyway. So that's just an idea for you. Like, if you ever run out of ideas, you can't manage to get to the 3, this is one of those techniques that I find really helpful in kind of proving the same point that conformity is to be safe and survive, but showing it through 2 different angles. So finally, my argument 3. Whether conforming or not, on some level, people inherently refuse to shed their sense of identity. Despite knowing their fate, the clones in Never Let Me Go still entertain the possibility of meeting their possible and their potential dream futures. Ruth in particular desperately wants to meet her real counterpart. Even though there is minimal likelihood that this woman really is Ruth's possible, the group still endeavour on the journey because they all believed that when you saw the person you were copied from, you get some insight into who you were deep down, and maybe too, you'd see something of what your life held in store. This reveals how a sense of identity is fundamentally important for the students, as they can potentially discover more about who they are. Meanwhile, Frau-Paul's courage to do the right thing by her conscience showcases how even in dire situations, people will uphold their principles as a means to protect who they are and what they believe in. It is only by refusing to comply with the GDR that Frau-Paul can sleep at night with what I have done. So in this last body paragraph, I talk about how people don't necessarily conform 100% to whatever it is that they're conforming to. And I feel like by adding that in, I really tackle and nail that keyword of examine, because I'm really thinking about conformity and what that means on all different scales. So yeah, I hope that's helpful for you guys. If you did like this video, then I would direct you to an old comparison that I did on Stasiland and 1984. So I know that you're not necessarily studying 1984 because you're studying Never Let Me Go, but the themes and the ideas are very similar. So I think if you went ahead and had a look at that, then that might give you some more ideas and insights on where to get started with Never Let Me Go as a comparison pointer with Stasiland. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, then please chuck it down in the comments below. Let me know, what else would you add into these paragraphs? What other characters would you talk about? What literary techniques would you discuss? And what comparison points perhaps? I really love hearing your discussions when it's constructive and one that really shows that you're thinking about the prompt. So I'll always try to answer and respond to all of the comments. So yeah, make sure you go and do that, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.